Hello. So good afternoon. Welcome again to the conversation with a queer member of the Divine Nine. I'm Christopher Starling, the curator, archivist at the Inner Life Archive 2.0. I'm supporting Corey and I recognize our prior page, interviewing people who are queer part of D9. So I want to first thank you for giving us your time and sharing your story with us. And hopefully somebody can gain a witness by hearing your story.
Right. Okay.
So you want to first start with, how do you identify yourself? How do you identify within the LGBTQ community?
Black, same gender loving. Uh, yeah, he, him. I don't really know. Yeah, that's about it.
Cool. So how did you get to the point where identifying with that same gender loving?
I just feel like the idea of that, like, I feel like queer and like gay holds like a lot of, holds like a heavy weight of just like a lot of things that's inside of it that doesn't always really translate to just like I like to engage with like male on male like in like moments. It's just like it's attached to like things that are like political, non-political, people's personal beliefs of what queer means, and
Mm-hmm.
just same gender loving.
And
Like,
did you always feel that way, or did it change over time?
um, I feel like it changed over time because I didn't have the language of same gender loving, and then when I was approached with like that is actually what it is, I'm like, okay, I'll take that instead. Yeah.
When did you? How did you get the language? Where did you get it from?
Just through association with friends and people
Okay.
like have the language to like tell me that there is other things that you can use instead of that.
So, I don't want to dishonor your experience, but for our conversation, I'll use the word queer a lot. But I am very clear that you identify as SGL, so I want to dishonor that. Just for our conversation, queer is an inclusive term to talk about everybody who was part of the community.
Okay.
Um, talk to me about your inviting in story. So, how old are you?
What was that?
How old are you?
Oh, 39.
So, as a 39-year-old Black SGL man, how was the inviting in story your kind of coming out story?
Um, so I guess mine's a little interesting, like in regards to my coming out of like to my mother, like me and my mother are like best friends. So it really wasn't like a coming out or a coming in story. It was really just like a conversation, right? It was like I had a girlfriend at some point. Me and her were cool. Like she was actually really nice, and like I was like super young. I think I had to been like middle school or something like that. And it's
Okay.
like she was in the neighborhood. My mother knew her. Everyone knew her, and I was just
Mhm.
kind of um, like I think the idea of sex that came about, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm interested in that. And then it's like I had met this guy, and then it's just like I was like, oh, I think I actually kind of like this, but it was like the conversation was just like that to my mother. I was like, well, I met this guy, and I think I actually like that. She was like, oh, okay, cool. Well, let me know how that works out. And then like a couple weeks later, it was like my boyfriend. She was like, well, okay, you can just bring him by the house, and then that's all she wrote. It really wasn't like a combative anything, like
Okay.
back and forth between her. It was just kind of like, well, if this is what you like now, cool. If that's what you like now, cool. Just like help me guide you through it.
And that's a really beautiful experience to share. Thank you for sharing that. Was the environment you grew up in, the city you grew up in, similar in context of like accepting and providing support for you?
Um, yes and no. Well, I'll say yes because like it was very interesting. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay.
Um, and it's like I bring this up to people a lot that like at some point St. Louis had like 9 like dedicated queer black spaces to go to, where it's
Okay.
like not like black queer on one night and like everything else on the other. It's like no, these are black spaces, and we all
Mhm.
go to these things. And it's like because I remember being young, just like in high school, just like club hopping and just like moving around these spaces. I was like, wow, this is like a lot. And then you go to other states, and you're like, wow, it's just like a black night, or like just like a one thing, or even just in those spaces, it's like you have your black night in one of the 2 gay clubs that's in a whole city.
Yes.
So it's like I just feel like the city catered to a certain culture in a way that it's like I don't think anyone will ever remember because like now those spaces aren't there because they couldn't survive. But
You remember the names?
you had 747, you had the G Spot, you had Novax, you had Attitudes. Uh, what else?
I asked because so in the archive I run
Hmm.
separate from this page. I ask people often about like black queer spaces, how they gather, especially ones that were ending. I ask
Hmm.
people to send me photographs, send me flyers, because what you're sharing right now is called living history, oral history. So your experience at the G Spot is now a snapshot capsule of like what it was like to go there. It's not there anymore. It's even more important to go like, oh, it was on this street, and it's
Right.
who owned it, and like all that stuff is important for the history.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, if I'm asking you a question, I'm like, where was it at? Do you remember his name? Oh yeah,
Nice. Okay. Well, yeah. Maybe offline, I'll do some more research and give you those in
that's
detail.
fine. That's cool. Because again, we had there's a couple of people who work in archives, who work in research, like who really want to know how we gathered, especially that there's not there anymore. So it's really important that you know what you went through. It's like, oh, cool. How was it like?
Right.
Yeah. So was it hard or easy to find and build community for you in St. Louis as you were developing your identity?
I would say, from my experience, no. Um, St. Louis has a big drag community. They have a big trans community. They had a big queer community.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember a moment where I didn't have people in my space that were queer and not queer, and like people didn't just like recognize them as that. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was very much like it wasn't like a new thing. So it's interesting to see it now, how people see it like a new thing, like we didn't just exist already, you know.
If it wasn't documented, or was it well known, or was it who knew, and that was it?
Um, I don't know. It's interesting because it's like when it's like whoever knew. It's like everyone knew, and
Mm-hmm.
regardless if you choose to speak about it or not, it's like there are people speaking about a thing in front of you, and you publicly not acknowledging like what they're saying. It's like that's kind of on you. It's not on them, right?
True. I asked because I'm from New York, went to Morehouse, um, but I grew up like gay in New York, so I remember Chi-Chi's was a black-owned bar in the village that was here forever. But people were like, "Oh no, Lambda!" I'm like, "Yeah, I love Lambda." I'm just saying that there were places before Lambda got here, so similar. I'm like, most people also didn't come to New York at that time, so they wouldn't have known that it existed,
Actually,
and
I remember
their,
teaching. Actually,
their experience is
right,
attached to uh, Lambda or Next or this new thing, which I think is beautiful. Is just there's a gap because it wasn't documented. So nobody knows that she went to Chi-Chi's. I was a kid when it was around, so I was like, yeah, I remember walking past the village. And anyway, so let's talk about your journey to Alpha. So you are a member of Alpha Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
I am.
So where did you join, and how was that experience like for you?
Follow five. The experience was good. I don't really have any crazy negative things to talk about. It was very much like the same experience I think most regular people who were going through a space, and like also I think in context I was the oldest of like the people who I went through with because I had served in Kuwait and Iraq, and then as I came back, then it was like then I went online. So like everyone had known me before I left as like this, like, because on campus I was already out. It was like this black gay cheerleader,
Oh,
SGA,
okay.
things like that. He was just like I was like out, and it's just like I left, came back, and it's like okay, now you're gonna be online. So I kind of it was kind of like already understood who I was, not like a
So why Alpha over everything? Any other option you had?
um. Well, I had a AKA cousin. Um,
Okay.
and it's not that she preached alpha; she very much pre Greek life, but it was like associated in that capacity of like it just kind of went down in order. And then also like the rest of the fraternities really weren't on campus at that point because I
Mm-hmm.
had gotten kicked off for hazing and stuff. So it was just kind of
What school is this? I'm sorry.
Missouri Western.
Got it.
Um, so it's just like the option was there. I like what they represented on campus. They were really diverse across the campus of like the experience, like the presentation of campus. Like I remember being in high school, seeing one of the bros like he was like singer doing something, but it was like on the main website and on the page of like so they were like well documented, but like even other Greeks you just didn't see them, and
Got
that's
it.
you know they saw you saw them doing the thing that they do, but you didn't see them like across. SGA or Black Student Union or Art Society and stuff like that. So it's just kind of like you just if you didn't see him, you didn't see him. You know.
And so you said that you were openly queer on the yard undergrad. So was no stretch to kind of share that with your Line Brothers chapter moving forward? Wasn't the thing? It's like a regular conversation to have.
It wasn't a stretch, and it really wasn't up for discussion. Like it was very much like I was already queer, and you knew that like prior to, and it's like I was gonna be on. Like you're not gonna tell me I'm not gonna be on because I'm not queer. You know, I'm
Yeah.
queer. So it was just an understood thing. And then like a lot of my brothers, they were very much like they were very much like they were aware and they understood like what that was and what that meant, you know. And it wasn't like a oh we don't really want him online or anything like that. It's just like I had a couple bros who was just kind of like that, but then like I found out like later down the line like there was a group of bros who was just like oh I don't want him online because he's queer, but it was just like it was another group who was just like well if y'all don't take him y'all can't take them because we all want him, and so it was just like well here we go, you know.
So is it been is there a community that you are a part of queer members in Alpha that kind of like love one each other, support each other?
Um, Here, no. Um,
Here as in New York?
yes.
Okay.
I haven't like you know things like you meet other alphas and other Greeks and stuff like that, or just other people in your fraternity, and it's like you meet them outside of your chapter in a way where you're just like, oh, you're a good friend. Sometimes I even forget how many people that I know who are actually alphas because I meet them in such a different space, and then you see them one day with a Greek jacket. And I was like, oh, you are Greek. I totally forgot. You know, it's just like we forget that we consist like in a very regular way, and it's just like, um, it was interesting because that was one of the reasons me and my good friend James Felton Keith. I don't know. He's like a Kappa in New York.
Very popular well known Kappa, yes.
Right. um, that's what me and him were like starting out Greek Fest because we were in this space where we were just trying to like figure out um, how do Greeks exist like past college because like you know it's like a lot of Greek oriented things where it's just like it talks about the Greek process in relation to like
Undergrad.
undergrad strolling things like that, but it's just like there's a whole bunch of us out here just like really doing some damage in the world, and it's just like you know probably ain't strolling in like 20 years, you know, but it's like it's okay because we're doing the work that needs to be done like in the regular world, and we're still acknowledging who we are, and it's just like but what does that life look like, and then how do we curate that life for us like if we do want to continue to be like Greek and do things and like have this camaraderie that doesn't always pertain to letters but pertains to like the members, you know. So
Yeah, I remember when we first started. I loved the rollout, the branding, the whoever illustrated it was. I was like, oh, this is so dope. This is cool. And also, but, I had not known anybody who was openly queer in undergrad. So I was like, oh, this is an out Greek fest. I wonder who's going to be there. I was like, I know they went to the club. I know people I know people who are Greek and exist in the queerness, but a lot of them joined in grad chapter. A lot of them became more free, more full later in life. So they're not necessarily attached to their Greek experience as they were would they have been had they did it in undergrad. So I loved the rollout when it came out. I was very excited to support people to go to the event and see how it was like. And,
so the goal with the rollout, I really want to make sure that it's like all people of color help create this rollout. So I kind of lightly illustrated what I want or had like an idea, but then I was just like, because you've seen Greek stuff. It's just like no shade to anyone creating Greek like anything or like presentations of Greek, but like we kind of have like an understood understanding of like what it looks like,
yeah.
what things are, what the colors that are associated to Greeks. Like
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wanted to just like mess all that up because like I don't know. I just felt like we needed like a refresh of what the potential of colors could mean for Greeks. Because like you know, people ain't you're not mixing your Greek letter colors with anything, right? But it's
Mm-hmm.
just like okay, so if I take them off and then have colors that are semi associated to like what that is, but just like we know that you're a delta or we know that you're a Q, but we're not going to associate that color with you. But we'll do like a complementary color that's connected to someone else. So you be like, okay, I get it. So
It
then
was dope. I make power and I like loved it. It was like dope.
I even found like so the illustrator of it was this woman from Venezuela, and I was just like, I had to find an illustrator who had no connection to Black Greek life or anything because I didn't want anyone to attach anything and be like, you know, paddle, big letters that like I was like,
Yeah.
no, we don't need any of that. So literally, I asked her, I was like, you know anything about Greek life? She was like, no, never heard of it a day in my life. I was like, actually great. I was just like, I'm gonna send you some references, some images, some layouts, some sketches, like pull inspiration from this, and then me and her just talked it through and just kind of like gave her understanding of like what the end result was without actually speaking about Greek life and just speaking about who the people were and who they represented, and that's what she came up with.
So it was beautiful. It is beautiful. I look forward to sharing the event and telling people to go. Like because I often think about as someone went to be a therapist, how do people navigate their experience being a part of the LGBT community and blackness, right, or black institutions. Even like Morehouse, we talked about it all the time in March to nauseum around like how we deal with homophobia and deal with stuff at Morehouse. And I didn't see much of it happening in a big way around the Greek world until recently. There was like small little things here and there, but I just loved how it looked. Honestly, the rollout was really beautiful.
Well, look for more of it. It would be more uh, interesting visuals of Black Greeks. Like 'cause that's the goal. Is to always be a little bit more progressive in the visuals of Black Greek and just like giving people ideas in a way where it's just like, yeah, we can think outside of the bubble of Black Greek. Because I think honestly, Greeks in general, Black Greeks, we need like we honestly need a refresh of like how we perceive each other, how we see each other existing, what it means to have like a long lasting brotherhood, like have we even done right by the brotherhood like as we've been going, like
Yeah,
is that up for question right now, like so
yeah.
there's questions that need to be posed or things that need to be fixed if we want to make sure this organization that our organizations as a whole as the Divine Nine is actually doing what we say we're doing.
That's a great segue. So, what is one thing you think Alpha could do differently to be more inclusive or better to the same gender loving brothers of the organization? That's a deep sigh.
It is because it's like I don't want to charge the entire organization with that because Alpha is not like Alpha is responsible, Alpha's not responsible, but it's just like they control a body of members that they can inform in a way that is that is responsible. You know,
Okay.
like you can you could and it's just weird because it's just like it's different based on where you go, right? And it's just like where I exist, where Greeks are, it's it's well understood. So it's like that alpha there, like, and that's the thing we forget that it's like there's different versions of alphas out there. You know, you got the ones that's out here like doing whatever they want to do, like, and that's like whatever with any chapter, you know. So it's just like what part of alpha are we talking about, you know, and who like, because if you say the overall, I feel like you kind of like give people a pass when you just say alpha should fix it because like alpha is kind of like out there. But when you target someone, be like, no, your chapter need to fix it, or you need to fix this thing.
Well, I asked because I have a friend who's going to convention, and he was bringing his partner to a convention, and there will be three ways to register:
Yeah.
brother, brother, wife, or youth, right? So he emailed Nationals and said, "Hey, well, is there a way for me to bring my partner, who I'm not married to, but we've been together for X amount of time, to convention? I want to register him so he can go to certain events with me, whatever." And they were fine.
Yeah.
Even in the breakdown of how it was curated, nobody considered that, right? So that's an example of a way that they could think about other things more than just the heteronormative idea around what alpha is.
Or even the idea of just putting sibling on the instead of because everyone may not identify as your brother. Or like, what about the Greeks just transition past their like when they were Greek? Like,
But
what
they
is
don't want them to come with something like that. The thing we're talking about, I'm saying, uh, it's not. I don't think it's either or. I think it's both and, right? I think the
yeah.
individual chapter, individual brother can take care of that corner of the house. I also think that um, nationals, regional people could do a different job of making the standard culture different.
I think, but also I will say, not to put all the blame on anyone in particular, but it's just like there takes an extreme amount of courage on both ends for people to make these decisions and make these pivots, and because it's really affecting how people live and exist. But then, like the person who is queer needs to advocate for themselves in a certain way to make change, but that takes a certain level of courage that everyone may not be capable of doing, which we all believe we should, but it's just like we exist in this world together. We see what's happening to people, like. But then on the other end, for you to maybe have Muslim beliefs or beliefs or something other than that person, for you to go outside your bubble and be like, hey, we still all participate in this thing together. So like, let me advocate for this thing without without moving my beliefs around. Like I can still make those decisions. It's like it takes a radical act of courage to do these things. But I mean, I thought that was the point of us being Greek. I thought we were the ones who did radical things, and that's who we were. And we were the four. We were the four. We should have been the first ones on queerness and trans before any of this. Like we should have been the ones advocating for these things, or at least understanding them enough to make the world work in the way we needed to work around us. Because like that's what we're here for. That's what we're made to do. You know.
Well, and my hope is that some of these interviews can be an example of showing people's lived experiences. Hey, I am queer, I am Greek, and here's how I navigate this world. And here's why I love it. Here's what I'm proud of. Here's where sometimes things are harder. Here's what I celebrate still. Because I don't think enough people who are not part of the room understand how the other half lives.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a projection of what is and what's not happening. I went to a panel once in school on being Greek in the 21st century, and there were people in the panel talking about, well, I hope people are not coming in the organization queer looking for partnership. And I was like, partnership? I don't know anybody who joined looking for a partner.
I mean,
But
but no shade. If they were, I mean, like, why is that your concern? You should be concerned on your work and what you're doing. And where people find partnership, like people find partnership at work all the time across the corporate world. Like you go to
yeah,
work, like that's not an unknown thing. But it's just like now you're gatekeeping what and when and how someone should do it. It's like no, that's not your job, and that's not why you're here. Like and like it's not your job to dictate how we're gonna where we find partnership and like why do you think we're looking for partnership? It's like no, you're looking for partnership. Like don't put that on us.
true. And also, comes up in other rooms, and it keeps people from being able to join the organization who want to do work or want to do brotherhood, whatever it is, because somebody's idea that this person, because they are queer, visibly queer, is looking for partnership.
That's
But
ridiculous because like they're literally there also looking for partnership. Everyone's looking for partnership. The only reason you're probably here on Earth is to really just like eat food, partnership, and advance like who you are as a person. You know.
mhm.
So,
What are some of the things that bring you the most joy about being a Black same gender loving man?
everything, honestly. I don't think I could be anything other than this. It's like like everything about my existence. I appreciate. I appreciate my struggles, my heights, and like who I am and how I exist as that. And it's like I wouldn't want to represent it any other type of way. Like,
But then the other question is, what are you the most proud of? Then
what do you mean? And proud.
proud. What do you feel the most safe? What do you feel most proud of being a same gender loving Black man?
Um, I guess I guess by being proud, I'm just like I'm proud that I could, um, in this way, I guess, transition into the person I was supposed to be in a very public way where like everyone transitions, right? Like everyone like and people just think of transitioning as in like a sexual thing, but no, you are a child and you become the man you're supposed to be. Like you transition and like you look back at that person and be like I'm really not that person anymore, but you are, but you're not. But like that keeps happening in your life and people just kind of play it off so it's like you go from boy to man. It's like no, you keep transitioning and becoming closer and closer to the person you're really supposed to be. And the beauty of being in a gay space is that like we have the privilege of seeing black or just black trans women transition in a very public way, unlike everyone else who's they have to transition too, but they transition in a very internal way. But we get to see them transition in a very public way, hold true to who they are, and then be like, this is who I'm gonna be. Watch them be that thing, and then turn around and then show everyone like I told you so. Like this is it. And so it's just like I don't think any other group of people have that privilege of seeing people in their community in that space be able to do that. And so
Yeah.
I appreciate seeing that younger and seeing what like to the fact that you would do something to some degree that would possibly kill you just to validate to the rest of the world that like this is who I am and I'm gonna be this thing regardless of whoever says I can't be this thing. Like that's a level of courage most men would never do. Like
Sure.
Like they would
Real.
never make that. Like if someone said you had to do something to get injections just to be a man to do X, Y, and Z, some men would just be like, "Nah, I'm not gonna do it. Like I'm
They
fine."
matter.
Like they wouldn't even like, and it's like weird because then you see people who actually are taking this thing to like be who they are. Folks are challenging them on it on a day to day basis. It's like I don't care. It's still gonna exist, and it's just
Mm.
like they're just still who they are. Like that's what I'm proud of being around and being able to. I can see that, and then also advocate in those spaces to be like I am because they were, you know. So
Okay. That's great. And so, what are you working on? How can we support you? Where can people follow you to learn more about what you're working on? How they can support you?
Um, I am currently working on Out Greek Fest. So what I want to do is we're doing smaller portions of it, and
Okay.
we're gonna build up to another festival, and so we're
Okay.
gonna do regular events in New York City. You know, so I
Okay.
would love for people to come out and support, just get to know Greeks in our neighborhood, just like hang out, grab a drink, like things like that, but just to like build up the conversation around um, what it looks like to be older Greek, younger Greek, how we can all assist in like whatever that transition is when school is no longer the thing that connects us, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Dope. So, is the pages out Geek First on Instagram?
yes,
Cool.
yep.
Well, thank you again for being so transparent and sharing your story. Hope somebody gets a witness from it.
Hope someone does too. And thank you for having me here on your show.
Of course. Well, not really a show. Not really a show, but yeah, thank you.
Yeah.